All right, everyone, it is Friday, and you know what that means. It is time for manufacturing e-commerce success. Wow, am I excited today because we're going to be talking about how you can show up higher on Google without paying for ads. Woo! I am Damon Pistolka, and we've got another Damon in the house today. I'm one of your co-hosts. We have Kurt Anderson over there, that pretty guy right next to me. Take it away, my friend.
Man, Damon Pistolka, happy Friday, dude. How's your week? You doing all right? Everything good?
Awesome.
Man,
Awesome.
you know what? I always say get a good night's sleep for our guests. I hardly slept a wink because I've been looking forward to this for months, man. I feel like we've got a celebrity here today. So this is such an honor, such
Yes.
a privilege. I've got my brother Damon, and I got my other brother Damon. Damon Burton, happy Friday. Welcome to the show, dude.
Thanks for having me. I don't know how I'm going to fit my head out the door when I go to the bathroom when we're done with this podcast with such compliments.
Man, all right. Well, they're just starting, my friend. They are just starting. So, all right, we've got a ton to get into. So, I guess to avoid any confusion, I don't know. We doing the DB, DP, maybe Mr. Pistolka, Mr. Burton, whatever. We'll figure it out as we go along. Right?
Yeah, good call.
Yeah. So Damon Pistolka, we always say we're not the sharpest tool in the shed, so we'll figure out something to get everybody's name straight. But hey, drop us a note in the chat box. Let us know you're out there. Hey, we've got Dale is here today. So Dale,
hey, how you doing today?
Dale says no pressure. Damon
pressure.
Burton. How's that? So hey, drop us a note. Let us know you're here. Do yourself a favor. Connect with Damon Burton. Connect with Damon. Connect with me while you're at it. But definitely connect with Damon Burton. Tons of awesome content on LinkedIn. Damon Burton, I want to dive into that. Before we go any further, I do have a question for you, though. Are you ready? Are you sitting down for this one?
Yeah, I think I can handle it.
All right. Damon, when you were a little guy growing up, who was your hero? Who'd you look up to? Who'd you admire? Who helped make the amazing man that you are today? Who was your hero?
So I have an answer, but it's largely the opposite of what you'd expect. So I grew up like the anomaly in the family, right? And so grew up lower middle class. Didn't really have anybody that had accomplished any sort of entrepreneur feats. Disposable income wasn't a thing. So I think that's what created the drive is like, how do I not do that stuff? And so I didn't really have anybody. And we might learn this pattern as we talk is like, I didn't really have, I have mentors now, but that was already after I had accomplished something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have mentors. I don't have favorites. Like I don't have a favorite movie. I don't have a favorite band. I don't have a favorite color, And so it was just one of those things that it was largely seeing other people's mistakes and pressures in life and both in business, financial, and just relationships. I've been with my wife 20 years. We've been married 17 of those 20 years. And so it was largely learning from other people's mistakes.
Damon Pistolka, what a great answer that is, man. Yeah. So just kind of following and just, you set your moral compass, if I'm hearing you correctly, and just kind of like, your ambition, your aspirations, what you want to do out of life, and just kind of see what other things like, I don't like that so much. And this is the direction. So by seeing others, it helped kind of pave your path. Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah. I mean, kind of like an abbreviated deeper response on that topic is like, my parents divorced when I was 2. And then so that led to, so I lived with my mom and great relationship with my dad. And then she remarried and then the third guy was an alcoholic. And so I knew him from when I was 8 up until he just passed away last year. And so that gentleman, for the opposite reasons, really taught me, this is not how I want a household. This is not how I want financial instability. And so it was that ecosystem where I was like, when I become an adult and have a family of my own, how do I have a loving environment? How do I nurture relationships with my kids? And now I have 3 kids and I have amazing relationships with all of them. How do I avoid the pains of financial instability? And so it was my own experience in childhood, and we all have some version of that. And that is what created all the blessings in my life. But what's interesting as you get older, now I'm starting to see the patterns that it created that also caused me stress. And so now I'm trying to identify the things to go, okay, this got me here, but now maybe part of that doesn't serve me anymore. And so I'm trying to undo the parts that create this like constant, the easiest example, so I can wrap this up, is just like the 24/7 channel in your head, because I'm always trying to be proactive. And that came from like, how do I avoid crazy circumstances in the household? Well, let's be proactive. And so then when I moved out and I didn't need that anymore, that muscle was already built. And so then it evolved into, how do I how do I apply this proactively, which ended up being entrepreneurship. But now, man, holy crap, that's exhausting.
Yeah. Wow.
That was not a quick question to start this with.
That
Kurt.
was I knew all right, as good as I knew this is going to be. That was phenomenal.
Incredible.
I have to hit a couple things right there. So Damon, we're older guys. We followed a gentleman, Wayne Dyer, and then if you follow, there's another a great speaker, Ed Milet. Both of those guys talk about, like some of the pain or suffering or the things that you've gone through earlier in life help pave the way or the path for the person that you're going to be, because you actually had leadership in your life of what not to do or what not to be. I don't want to be like that. I have this person, there was somebody with an addiction, or there's a problem in my life, and that's what I don't want to be. Damon Burton, that was absolutely phenomenal. Pastolka, what do you want to add?
Well, and then too, Damon, you said this, which I think many of us throughout our lives and careers realize, is that what got me here is driving me absolutely effing crazy right now, that I need to change because it doesn't serve me anymore. And that was so poignant what you said. There's some of this stuff that did get us here, through this entrepreneurial journey or whatever it may be, but we do need to adjust at a certain point because it doesn't fit us forever.
Yeah, Ed Milet's got a great story. I've chatted with him a time or two, and you've probably seen his story about it's effectively like, I'm going to be the one that changes my lineage, my family name. And so I was that person too. And so it was interesting to see, somebody else. I knew those other stories existed, but it's always fun to see one in detail and from somebody that's accomplished even more. But you're right. A lot of people that find some relative success realize that it might be traumas that helped get us there. But I think where a lot of people don't take it a step further is when they start getting burned out and tired, is that they realize that they don't dig deep and realize it's the same things, right? And so now, how do you find that balance of like, I still want the drive and I'm still hungry and I still want to accomplish things in entrepreneurship, but holy crap, I'm tired. And so like, how do I reduce the mental? For me, it's largely mental bandwidth. Like I just can't shut my head down. You talked, Kurt, last night, like I couldn't get sleep. Well, I don't have a problem falling asleep. Like I can fall asleep within 5 minutes. But man, I'll wake up 5 times in the middle of the night, like 10 hours deep into a thought of like how I'm solving the world's problems. And I wake up and I'm like, what conversation have I been having in my head to be like this deep into a thought, and just to wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like mid-sentence on something.
That is awesome. So let's dive in here, Damon Burton. All right. So first off, thank you. What an incredible, powerful answer. Appreciate your vulnerability. Appreciate your honesty. That was just so captivating and inspiring. Love to talk to you more about that. Let's slide in here. So let's go back to young Damon Burton. Okay. You shared some wonderful, powerful, experiences in your youth, your young life. As you out of school, kind of like starting your career, walk us through what was going on in early Damon Burton. And I'm going to lead up to how you became this SEO superhero that you are, but kind of lead your early career. And then I want to slide up to how you launched your business in 2007.
Yeah. So I always knew, I always felt confident that I would accomplish something. But man, I had no idea what that was. And I think that's important for newer entrepreneurs to kind of give themselves a break and an opportunity to kind of figure it out as you go. So for me, I compare it to like dating. And so when you go into a new relationship, and we'll compare that to careers, it's like, okay, what do I like and don't like in this relationship or this career or this job? And so for me, it was like, take the parts that I like, and then there's no real bad career. There's just learning opportunities. And then you go into the next career. And so for me, it was, I come out of college, I knew basic HTML. This was before WordPress, Shopify, ClickFunnels, all these things. And so you had to learn it by hand. I go into college, and we had this communications class, and they said, part of your, like half your grade's building a website. And I got thinking about it, and I said, I know I'm going to put all this time into building a website, and at the end of the semester, they're just going to delete it. And so I asked the professor, I said, can I keep it? Can I put it on a domain instead of putting out where you're going to wipe it out? Can I put it somewhere where I can keep it? And he says, yeah, as long as we can grade it, that's fine. And so I built a car enthusiast website called Elite Rides. I still have it. It's archived, nothing there to find now. But it was just, I was young 20s, into cars, things like that. Yeah. So I built this community. And then what happened was coincidental timing. About 6 months later, Fast and Furious came out. And that was like the community that I had nurtured. And so then it grew and then it grew. And so I got thinking that this is where the entrepreneurship part of me starts coming in. And it's like, well, how do I make this better? And so then I got more intentional about design. And then how do I monetize this? So then I started understanding marketing. And then I was the guy that did websites on the side for a while for people and built up a little side hustle. And then what happened was I was working remote for a company in Vegas. I'm in Utah. And this was before Slack, and I was on AOL Instant Messenger, and I'm trying to get a hold of everybody, and nobody's replying. And all of a sudden I get a reply from one of the other designers overseas going, did you hear what happened? I'm like, what do you mean what happened? I'm trying to get a hold of everybody, and I know something's going on. And what had happened was like straight out of a movie scene. The Vegas company got raided, guns and everything, by the FTC, ATF, local sheriff's department. Wow. And the guy that owned it he had a civil suit years before, but no criminal suit. Well, the criminal suit caught up to him, and then they came after him. So it wasn't that company, but of course, once you got a bone to pick, then they go after everything. So they came after the second company too, shut him down. And so at that moment, I had a choice, and it was like, okay, do I see if I still have a job? So option number one is see if I still have a job and stick it out. Option number two is bail, go find another job. And option number three was bet on myself. Like, hey, I got side hustle clients. I would effectively reduce my income in half, because half my income was the day job, half was the side clients. My wife and I were newly married, didn't have any kids yet. We knew we were going to wait a while. We waited 5 years. And then, so I did the math. And for me, it was like simple math. And we would be house poor, but we could still put food on the table because she had a job at the time too. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that seemed like as calculated as a risk as I'd ever have, especially knowing that I'd have more liabilities in the future with kids and things like that. And so I bet on myself, replaced that income within about 3 months because I freed up that time. And then, we can talk about the journey from there, but that's how I started the company. As I was brought to a fork in the road.
That is awesome. And hey, we've got a great comment from Anna, Damon.
Yeah. She's talking about life's failures, whether it be yours or someone else's, are great teachers. And she mentioned such a great lesson, such an amazing realization that you were able to make early on and not be afraid to use it as a positive, in a positive manner. Right. Great comment, Anna. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Happy Friday. So, Damon, all right, great story. And I love hearing, we love diving into that origin story, if you will. And a lot of folks are the accidental entrepreneur. I think this might be the first that we've heard this one, where your employer was being raided. And so you decided to kind of throw in your entrepreneurial hat. It's now time. So this is 2007-ish when you started. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, can you walk us through, and then I want to dive into SEO National. Again, guys, drop us a note. Let us know you're out there. Connect with Damon Burton. Follow him on LinkedIn. Phenomenal content. I have to say, you put out great posts. I thoroughly look forward to them. Enjoy following your story, your family, and all the above. But dive in 2007. Was it scary, exciting, nervous? It was pre-kids, but what was going through your mind as you launched SEO National?
It was awesome because I was like mid-20s, newly married, and I could drink beer in the morning. So, I mean, when we talk about, like, I gave the analogy of like dating the phases earlier in your career, and it applies to me too, even being self-employed. So there was like phases where for me, I was never in a rush to, like, look, there's so many people that made so much more money faster than I did. But I never wanted to grow at the expense of my sanity. And so, like, for the first year or two, it was just freaking amazing to be self-employed. Right. Like, I could pay the bills. I had an extra $200-300 a month, which was like $1 bazillion in your 20s. Right. And so, like, it was just cool. And then how that evolved was, maybe a year later, as things started to slowly grow, I was like, I came to a resistance point where I couldn't do everything. And it wasn't like overwhelming, but it was enough where it was uncomfortable. And so, who the first person I hired was, who's still with me, was the guy that messaged me and said, "Did you hear what happened?" And so he was, of course, out of a job too. And so, in the first year or two, we were mostly design. And so the way that we got into SEO and then how I made an intentional pivot was probably a year or two later. I had a design client that said, "What do you know about Google?" And so this next story is a great opportunity for new entrepreneurs on how to figure out how to come up with clients. So when they reached out to me, I said, I know enough that I think I can help you, but I don't know enough that I feel comfortable charging you because it's not my area of expertise. But I also don't want to work for free. So how about we do this? I'll take away the risk. You don't owe me anything until we hit these mutually agreed upon benchmarks. Then if we hit them, you pay me retroactively for the time, and we start a retainer. So now they have nothing to lose because either nothing happens or they win. And now I'm incentivized while also addressing my moral compass of, trying to figure this out. And so we ended up hitting those goals within, I think it was like 3 months. SEO is significantly different back then. And then they had a client, another design client that they had referred me. And so I could go to client number 2 and go, "Hey, this is just what we did with client number 1. Do you want to test out the same thing?" And they said, yeah, and had similar success with them. So both of them 17 years later are still clients.
Wow.
So at that moment is when I said, I always knew pretty early on that if this agency thing works out, I don't want to be an agency that offers it all. And so at that moment, I was pretty clear going, all right, we're going to focus on SEO and, we'll still do design because it supports SEO, but I'm not going to do paid ads. I'm not going to get into email marketing. Social media wasn't a huge thing back then, but just other things I wasn't going to commit time to, and I'm just going to focus on SEO.
Yeah. And I tell you, and I don't know if you do it often, but I've seen numerous posts of yours talking about, staying in your lane, being in your niche. We love using that line, niche down till it hurts. And that was one thing that I was really excited to have you on the show today is talk about, say you're talking to, Damon Burton in 2007, or that newly fresh entrepreneur that's just kind of launching that business. And, you're just kind of capturing everything that comes your way. How have you been able to just really be disciplined to stay in your lane and just exploit your superpowers in SEO? Any advice that you would share for a young entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think the first thing that new entrepreneurs need to address is it's normal to want to put food on the table. So I get why when those other opportunities come in, you're like, well, yeah, why not? Why not? Why not? And so as needed, do it. Sure. Right. Just don't be obsessed with it. I actually made a post yesterday that said something like, let's be honest, not everybody needs what you offer. Therefore, not all leads are equal. So don't chase every opportunity, because what you don't learn quickly enough in entrepreneurship, but it becomes super important later, is opportunity cost. So let's give the SEO example. All right, I'm a new SEO guy, and my average retainer is $3,000 a month. And then I get somebody that comes in and they're like, I have a $3,000 website I want you to do. And you're like, oh, $3,000. Yeah, I need $3,000. And so you chase that. And so, yes, you monetize that direct time of $3,000, but now you took time away from a reoccurring $3,000 per month.
Right.
So you need to, delayed gratification is one of the best things that you can adopt and embrace. And I understand it's hard. I understand it's not natural. But when you do it enough, it becomes a superpower and you become addicted to it. Like when you run into problems, when you run into opportunities that are better or worse sooner or later, you develop a sixth sense to go, oh man, saying no right now feels so good.
Yeah.
Just say
100%.
Right. Sometimes you got to just say no. So Damon Burton, let's go here. Okay. So you've picked that lane, that SEO lane, if you will. Can you run for, so we target manufacturers, and Alan's here today. So happy.
Yeah, hey, Alan said, hi guys from the auto racing capital of the world, Indianapolis. Don't they have a big weekend coming up in a couple weeks there?
I think they might. So,
yeah.
Good stuff, Friday Alan. To Alan. So, hey, let's go here, Damon. For talk a little bit. Let's give us like a little bit of an SEO 101, if you will. Again, for folks out there, manufacturer out there, they've been the best kept secret for many years. They've got to start getting some. So you're engaging with that company. In our case, like manufacturers here for the first time. Walk us through like a little bit of an SEO 101. What's that engagement look like with you?
Yeah, so I'll answer it in general, and then we could probably touch a little bit specifically on manufacturing. So in general, SEO stands for search engine optimization. Your goal is to show up higher on Google and major search engines for words that you can monetize without paying for ads. And so you effectively build up the reputation and credibility of your website. Now, the way that you do that falls into 3 scopes. Those scopes have lots of subsets of tasks, but to keep it simple, category number 1 is how good or bad is your website built? Does it load quickly? Is it mobile friendly? Clear call to action, easy navigation. Second category is content. You can only show up on Google for what Google can read. So do you clearly communicate your products and services and your value propositions that separate you from the competition? And the third category is external credibility. So it's like a popularity contest, right? Do other people talk about you? Do they link to you? Do they mention your brand name? And most of your visibility comes from the latter two, the content and the credibility, but those will only be effective if you have a well-built website. So you front load the website because it's just like building a house, right? You build the foundation. It is absolutely crucial for everything else, but once it's done, it's done. Like you don't need to pay attention to it, and then you can go do the cool, fun stuff with the rest of your house. It's the same thing with SEO. Build a solid website, and then from there, it's largely a content strategy.
Perfect. All right. So one question I have, your number one is, do you have a good website? Do you have a particular website platform that you prefer, that you recommend to folks, or are you agnostic? What's that look like?
Yeah, WordPress by 1,000 miles. Now there's an exception to that, right? Especially if we're in manufacturing and if you actually sell the product.
Right.
So if you have an e-commerce product, Shopify is great as well. So the reason why WordPress is so favorable, not just to me, but to the majority of SEOs, is because you own the installation. And so if you know how to do SEO properly, you can touch and feel everything that you need. Now with Shopify, you can touch and feel like 90% of it. And so it's a really good platform, but they own the installation. And so you can only touch and feel what they give you access to. And so that little 10% difference can make or break, especially in a really competitive market.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so recommendation. So if folks are out there, if you're landing on a new web or considering a new website, WordPress, phenomenal option. I think last I checked was at 37% of all websites in the United States
crazy.
are still on WordPress. And I know a lot of people, will beat up WordPress or this, that, the other thing. I agree with you 100%. Great platform.
I'll tell you why they beat up on it.
Yeah.
WordPress is as good or as bad as the person installing it or maintaining it. So it's like the people that crap on Apple versus Windows.
Yeah.
It's not because one or the other is better or worse. It's because you don't know how to use Apples or Windows.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. That's right. All right. So thank you for the SEO 101. Let's take it another step further. Say somebody, okay, I've gone through step 1, 2, and 3. I'm working on a little bit of credibility, but I'm just not seeing the results. I really need to muscle up. I need to align with an agency. How about going here? Can you talk about what are some things that you would recommend for somebody when they're interviewing a new agency? What are some questions they should ask when they come to someone like yourself? What information do they need to acquire to make a decision to partner with someone like you?
The first thing is transparency. Like if you're shopping an agency, you want to make sure that they communicate transparently, because in any industries, but particularly marketing, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and a lot of Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. And for me, it's like as soon as they say the word proprietary, like that's like a red flag, and you should skip that agency, because we all have access to the same or similar tools. The difference in effectiveness is who knows how to use them properly and in what combination. So the probability of somebody actually having proprietary tools is highly unlikely. And even if they do, the benefit of their proprietary tool is probably marginal. So the first thing is how they communicate to you. And along the same lines of transparency is, can they communicate to you what they're going to do? Because a lot of times what happens is you're talking to a sales guy, not any part of the fulfillment team. And so the sales guy, of course, is incentivized to sell. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you need to pay attention to who's an ethical sales guy and who's just a money hungry sales guy. And so if they're vague or defer questions, and that's why the proprietary answer is such a problem, then that's usually a red flag. So you don't have to know every algorithm and the details of the algorithm, but they should be able to communicate. A great example is those 3 fundamentals we just went over.
Yeah.
Can they even tell you like
Right.
what their fundamentals are? And then,
Right.
okay, if they define the fundamentals, we'll talk about the content one. What are they going to do for content?
Right.
And then one layer deeper on the content, especially with like AI now, is
Right.
like, are they going to genuinely write content, or are they just going to mass produce garbage just to give you a line item that says I did a thing, but that thing may not be effective?
Right.
And only because you asked before we jumped on, because I'm not a salesy guy.
Yeah.
In my book, Outrank, and you're going to drop a link to it, there's a whole chapter on this. I just gave 2 or 3 things. If I remember, I wrote the book 3 or 4 years ago. If I remember right, I think I listed 25 things, and the chapter is literally called 25 questions, and it is exactly this: questions you should ask an agency.
Nice.
That's fantastic. All right. And hey, for the record, I know you're a super modest guy, so I'm going to make you uncomfortable. You can take out your headphones if you want. So Damon Pastolka, here's a few things that people say about our dear friend Damon Burton. And I love, what did he say? Transparency. The best thing about this SEO company is their transparency. This is what somebody has said about Damon Burton at SEO National. They helped our site broaden its reach. Damon and his team's ability to create an authentic way to represent my company and our clients was not just the fluffy nonsense, but meaningful concepts. He's an amazing company to partner with. I've been working with him for over 7 years, and his commitment and enthusiasm has never changed. Damon is at the top of his game. I know a lot of SEO companies, and Damon's team is cream of the crop. And I've got one last one: amazing, outstanding wealth of knowledge. Real key to good SEO is having a company that knows its stuff and is doing it the right way. So, Damon Burton, we applaud you for just really crushing it. And what I admire is your level of integrity. And I also want to slide in here. We were talking about the moral compass earlier. You had a post, if I'm not mistaken, not too long ago. You were talking about like, hey, these are specific words that I'm going after. So now it's like you're, kind of eating, you just cooked your own dish and you're eating your own meal, if you will, where like you're actually going after some of your own keywords.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, it took me a minute.
Yeah. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, it took me a minute because I just made a video about helping my kid build a website.
Yeah. That's
was it the kid one or was it the one? We got 2.
I thought you came up with like some specific keywords that you're trying to go after for your firm. So I saw the post that you're doing with your son. I saw both.
Okay. So the one for me, has been something that's been in the back of my head for over a decade. Right. So once you figure out how magical SEO is, then of course you you realize it's like clay, right? You can mold the search engines a little bit.
Right.
And so on the integrity side of things, I've never been malicious about it.
Right.
Though the ability exists. And so you get into like thinking about, politics and this and that. Like somebody could really do some damage if they wanted to.
Right.
And so I always stayed away from that. But I thought like, well, what's a fun way that I could do that? And so in the back of my mind forever has always been like, what would be something funny that I could rank for that would be a case study, but also humorous? And so like, one was like world's sexiest SEO. Like if you were to Google world's sexiest SEO and then just Damon Burton's everywhere, right? Like that'd be funny and it'd be a good proof of concept.
Right.
But then I was like, well, that's not necessarily my ideal audience. So I never pursued it. But it was April 12th and I made a post about it. And I told that same story and I said, so, hey, does anybody have any other ideas? And somebody wrote back and said, why don't you go after smartest SEO? And I was like, oh, okay, that would be a good one.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be as, ridiculous as sexiest SEO. Right. By the way, there's a guy that already ranks for sexiest SEO, but he did it so weird. And he actually chimed in on this same post we're talking about. Right. I wasn't friends with him and now we're connected. And I said, if you Google world's sexiest SEO, it's a guy named Matt saying he's the world's sexiest woman SEO. And I'm like, why did you do that, Matt? And so he did it as like a joke to show the concept of manipulation.
Right.
And he chimes in and then I go after. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go after smartest SEO.
Yeah.
I had never posted, we talked about content. You can only show up for what Google can read. I've never talked about quote unquote smartest SEO. So I had no historical content on it. I had no mentions of it in my structure of my website. We talked about the importance of structure. I had no external mentions, that third category of credibility. I had nothing. I was starting from zero. And if you would go search smartest SEO, there was 14.6 million other results already out there for that. I mentioned April 12th because by April 24th, whatever is exactly 14 days later,
Right.
I went from 0 to page 1 in 14 days
Isn't that
for
crazy?
smartest SEO.
Yeah.
So if you go search it now, I'm all over page 1 for smartest SEO.
Are you really?
And it took me exactly 2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's the example that I was referring to. Correct.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that
I
was,
gotta do it while we're sitting here.
yeah, that's fantastic. So how about let's slide into this. I don't know, elephant in the room, or this is one of the top questions I've been eager to ask you. AI. What is AI? What are you doing with your firm? How are you embracing it? With your clients? What are they asking you? What's going on with the AI world? Damon Pistolka,
Damon saw it. He saw it.
What are you seeing?
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right there, right under where people also ask. You're right there. That's hilarious.
And when I made the follow-up post and I said, guys, am I really on page 1 already? And I asked other people, like, if you go find the thread, there's a dozen or two people that reply and you're like, you're number 1 in Spain, you're number 1 in the Philippines, you're number 1 in the UK. Like, it wasn't just like nearby geographically, it's like international. It's funny. Okay.
Crazy.
Wait, hang on 1 second.
Oh, dude. Yeah, you gotta show it because you're not only on the first page, you're on the first page a few times. I mean, at least
can you see my screen? Can you guys see that? So we've got Damon Burton number 1, and right there, April 12th is the date right there. Then here's April 24th, exact dates that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely hysterical.
And go to the very, very top, right? So, they just removed it. So it used to show the quantity of results, and that was where the 14.6 million.
Yeah.
But so I show up for smartest SEO and smartest SEO consultant. 2 weeks beat out 14 million websites.
That is all right. So I think a big thing I remember. So Damon Burton, I had an e-commerce company 100 years ago, and we hired an SEO firm. This is like, mid 2000s or whatever. And the big thing, one of the criteria for us is, are you ranking for any of your keywords? Because if you're not ranking for anything, like, how are you going to get my keywords ranked? So I love your practicing what you preach. I just think that is just phenomenal. That was the exact example that I wanted you to bring up. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The other, I'll go give a quick example on the second one with my son's website. So we started, he's a teenager, big into skateboarding. And so I'm trying to expose them to entrepreneurship. And so together, I'm supporting him start a website he calls Skater Haters. And so it's kind of like a play on, people like ragging on skaters. And his website's only 2 months old. He launched the inventory 1 month ago. And he's already sold $200. Well, actually today he just got another order, so $230.
Nice.
Awesome. And I went and looked up what he's ranking for, and he's not number 1 on anything yet, but he's already number 2. I can't remember what it was, but what was fascinating, one of them was like, he's already in the top 5, 6, 7 pages. So he's not going to monetize it yet.
Right.
But what's fascinating is how quickly it's moving. It's a brand new website, no historical content. We're just barely starting the content strategy. And he ranks on page 5 or 6 for like skateboarder socks. But what was more interesting is like he sells like a tank top. And so like it's called like a skinny top or something. He's on page 2, I think. I think that was the one he was on page 2. And he's beating like JCPenney and like all these other billion-dollar, like multi-million-dollar brands.
Yeah, right.
For the words he's not even directly going after. We're not directly going after that one, but we just set up the structure so well. Right. So it's really fascinating, how well this can work, just with the basic fundamentals of approaching it properly.
Yeah.
Okay, AI.
Yeah, let's dive into AI. What's going on in your world there?
So another surprisingly opposite than expected answer. I'm largely the anti-AI guy. Not conceptually, like I get why it's cool, but from an SEO perspective, on the content side, we're completely out. So we use it for research, but that's it. We don't use it for any content output. And I'll tell you why. So there's lots of concerns about quality control. There's lots of liability concerns about accuracy of data in it, especially if you're reporting statistical stuff, or if your clients are in medical or legal and there's liabilities. But my concern on the SEO side has always been like duplicate unique content. And so when ChatGPT came out, as of the time we're recording this, that was like 18, 19 months ago. And I was immediately preaching like, this is cool, guys, but be careful. And so if you go to my blog, you'll see the historical posts where I'm going, watch out, something's coming, something's coming, because Google's played this game before. They had an algorithm update way back in 2011 called the Google Panda that would go after mass produced low quality duplicate content. So AI tools didn't exist back then, but what's called spinners did. And so spinners would, back then people would steal content from their competition or Wikipedia, drop it in the spinner, and it would shuffle around the paragraphs and swap out synonyms to create quote unquote unique content. So AI is now largely just a glorified spinner. And so I'm telling people, post on Facebook, post on my blog, and of course I'm met with resistance like, Google says it's fine. Well, SEO 101 is practically do the opposite of anything that Google says, because what they're really doing is building a case study to come after you and burn your house down. So a couple of months goes by, and then I want to say it was March of this year. What do you know? Google came out with an algorithm update, and while in their guidelines, they didn't specifically say AI or artificial content. The entire thing is about using tools to mass produce content at scale that's not unique or value added. So it's clearly detailing AI-based content. And then the next argument I get is like, well, Damon, we manually quality control it after. Sure, that's fine, but how well? And what happens is, like, even before the algorithm update came out, I did a test where I threw out a piece of bait and I said, look, I want to crowdsource a piece of content. Here's the topic. Everybody give me their piece. And so what I got back was, even without running it, these AI detection tools are largely garbage. So I manually looked at it, and I could immediately see the pattern between 3 different contributors. I got 5 bullet points back with 5 same titles, some of them slightly modified. So 3 different people with 3 different prompts from 3 different quote unquote better proprietary custom manual quality controlled input gave me the same output. And so if I can see that with my human eye, Google's algorithms are infinitely smarter than I am. And so they're going to see these patterns. And I don't care how many times you spin this content or shuffle it up, there's some level of detectability. Now, that'll get better over time. I get that AI is going to improve, but that part's obvious, right? So maybe what I'll end with is, people are missing the opportunity on the opposite side. And what the opportunity on the opposite side is human relatability storytelling. And so, like, how many ways can you punch in a topic in AI and get an aggregate generic response back that is completely different? Like, you're going up against a guy that's talking about how he grew up with grandma's cookies and how it smelled in the house,
right,
and the memories it brings him.
Right.
And ChatGPT doesn't have that stuff. And that's the stuff that makes your story relatable and compelling, that makes people buy.
Man, I don't know about you guys. I just smelled grandma's cookies. I don't know. Damon Pistolka, did you smell grandma's cookies right there, or what?
The oven is warm and been cooking for a while now.
That's right. All right. So, all right, phenomenal. So for anybody that's new to SEO and they come to you and say they're going to hire you, and they're like, hey, Damon Burton, what's going on with this AI thing? So are you laying out that message to them?
Mm-hmm.
If they're like, geez, my friend down the street or my neighbor said that they're cranking out all sorts of content. How do you kind of navigate that conversation?
Oh, it's easy. Yeah, I tell them straight up. Yeah, because we're either a match or not. And so what's fascinating is, every time I've said that, the person on the other side goes, oh, thank God. And it makes them buy in. Because the people doing this right understand the value of unique value proposition. And so like the big boys, they care.
Right.
The ones that are complaining about it are the newer, smaller businesses going, oh, you're an idiot because you're not leveraging AI. Right. Well, no, I just understand it at a different level.
Right. Well, I admire and completely respect your approach here. What next thing I know, go ahead.
And real quick, I mean, it honestly is the reason why Kurt and I really, really advocate for live streaming because you can't duplicate this. You can't duplicate this kind of conversation, what you just told us, how you just told it. And then the attractiveness of it for people watching. It's just undeniable.
Right.
Yeah. There was an interesting comment I made along that line, or an interesting comment that I read where somebody said live events are going to take off for that same reason, because people are going to get so burned out on reading the garbage fake content that they're going to need that human level of interaction.
Right. Grandma and the cookies, dude. That's going to stick with me. Being Mother's Day weekend, that's going to stay with me all weekend. DB. So I appreciate that. Let's go here. I cannot tell you how much, I've been following you for years on LinkedIn, but I've just really, your content has just really resonated. I try to comment and like and whatever. How many days a week do you post typically?
So on LinkedIn, I post once a day. On Facebook, I'm all over the place, and so I can tell you how they connect, right? And so we can talk about this just from a general perspective, but also from a business monetization and how I leverage it for marketing. So what's interesting is everything that I post on LinkedIn, I've already posted on Facebook. Now the reason why is because I'm just more naturally present on Facebook.
Okay.
And so what I do though, so here's the thing, right? Like to your point of going, I like your content, it resonates, I follow, you need to protect your brand voice. And so I write everything. And obviously I don't use AI. But you get to a point where like how do you scale your persona across platforms while maintaining quality control and that authenticity? So the reason why my flow is Facebook to LinkedIn is because I just inherently just go to Facebook and make a post. And then what I do is I grab it and I put it in Trello. And so then it's like, okay, I want to post this on on LinkedIn too. But the reason why I queue it is because I found a window that works best for me on LinkedIn. And everybody else's window will be different based on your industry and your location in the world and who your audience is. So for me, I've found a significant difference in visibility and engagement if I post between 6:30 and 7:30 a.m. Mountain Time. And I don't have data as to why, but I have a guess. And so my guess is that, we'll just call it 7 o'clock for easy numbers. My guess is that when it's 7 o'clock, when I make a post my time, it's 9 o'clock on the East Coast. So on the East Coast, they've gotten through traffic or whatever morning routine they got to do, and they're sitting at their desk, and we're all grabbing our phones and like wasting 10, 15 minutes. And so I think I'm catching people in that window. Now on the West Coast, I think it's similar, but for a different reason. They just woke up and they're checking out my posts on the toilet, and so I'm like catching them just waking up, crusty eyed, going, "What's on Facebook and LinkedIn?" So I post at that strategic window because the difference is a couple dozen views versus hundreds or thousands of views. And so I post there just at that time. And then the reason why I don't post more is because, I'm busy with the day and doing other stuff. But I want to be consistent to keep the audience engaged. And also there's a part of algorithms that reward consistency. I don't know where I'm going with this. That's what I do on LinkedIn.
Well, let's go here. Yeah, it's a great strategy. However, one person can post the exact same time as you and it's going to fall flat. I love your messaging. One day you're ranting and raving. I really admire you as a husband, as a father. I think you're taking a family to Tokyo. You guys did a wonderful fundraiser, gave away gifts at the holiday season, at Christmas time. I followed that whole thing. You do a lot of case studies. Hey, took this company, this keyword, we saw a 3,000%, so on and so forth. So for somebody out there that, again, our friends out there, maybe solo marketer, manufacturer, they're like, man, we're trying to step up our LinkedIn game. Get into a little bit of the mindset of like the content that you're putting out that, again, resonates with a guy like me, right?
Yeah, great thing to bring up because in general, people vomit too much on social media, but where LinkedIn is a B2B platform, they feel obligated and cornered to talk about only business content. So what happened for me where LinkedIn really started to take off was only about 3 years ago. And so I had a LinkedIn profile. Like if you've been on LinkedIn long enough, it used to just be a resume site.
Right.
And so like I had a profile from way back then. And but I didn't do anything with it as it became a social media platform. So about 3 years ago, I shut down all my social media, and at the time, it was largely just Facebook. And so my wife was amazing because I start going through and like if you shut down Facebook, like you can just turn it back on. And so I'm like, I'm not gonna play that game. So I wanted to wipe out everything. So I started deleting every post I'd ever made, and then I started deleting every comment I had made on everybody else's post. And then when I realized how long this was going to take, I asked my wife. I said, "Can you help out?" And so during the, she gets stay at home, and so during the day she started helping wipe things out. And I always joke like a true testament to the trust in your relationship is give your spouse access to your DMs on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so so she goes through and just deletes everything, completely wipes it out. Then I shut it down. So then what had happened was at the time, and this all ties in, at the time I used Facebook only for personal engagements. And so if I had somebody ask me an SEO question or a client add me, I would just ignore them. And so what had happened was I had one person that was a friend first that then became a client, but now I shut down Facebook and now I can't get a hold of him. So I was like, crap, if I could turn this on, I want to turn it on for more than just one reason. I want to be intentional about this. So how can I start leveraging social media? And so I turned it back on. And then at that same time, it's like, well, I'll use LinkedIn too, because that's where my audience probably is on a business side. And so the struggle that I went through, coming back to your question, was, how do I resume talking about my appreciation for my wife and kids without boring a now introduced business audience? And then on the other side, how do I start talking about SEO and entrepreneurship and marketing without boring my historical friends and family audience? And after a while, I don't care. Those are the things I like to talk about. So screw it. I'm just going to talk about it. And then what happens was, it takes you a couple weeks to get a flow, right? To fill out your voice. And so for me, there was times where I'd write something and I was like, I tried too hard on that one. It just didn't feel right. So then I delete it. And so you kind of go through this voice discovery process where you just become who you are and you decide who you're going to talk about, what you're going to talk about. So about 3 months into doing this on LinkedIn is when I started to notice consistent engagement. And then at 6 months is when I went, I think this is actually turning into business. And so then at 9 months, I went, yeah, it is. And so I went back and quantified it. And at that 9-month mark, it had added $150,000 in reoccurring annual contracts. And so to wrap this up to your point is I started to go, well, why is this working? And then I started to reverse engineer it and go, well, this is cool because I help people. And, you mentioned I put out case studies and I just proof is in the pudding. And so what I realized is that to give context, we do a couple $1 million a year and I have no form of lead generation. I don't have an email list. I don't have funnels. I don't do paid ads. And I consistently have leads and it comes from what we're talking about. And the reason why it works is because people follow you for your business expertise, but they buy when they relate to you as a human. And so what happens is you share your personal life. You got to define what the boundary is about how much you want to disclose. Like for one example, like I love talking about my wife and kids, but Kurt, I'm willing to bet, no matter, despite how long you followed me, until I say this, like you agree that you see me talk about my wife and kids, right? So until I just mention this now, you probably don't realize that I've done it in such a way that you feel that I intimately share about them, but I've never disclosed my kids' names and I've never shown an identifiable picture of
Correct.
them.
I that is intentional. And I've seen a video, when you did the holiday giveaway, which would brought tears in my eyes. I thought was just wonderful. And your wife was on there, but you are I agree with you 100%. You don't expose your kids. And that is, I've noticed that. Yeah.
That's a second version of the video. The one that my wife and I have has our kids in it. And so I had a second edit that removed my kids from it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for me, I love talking about my wife and kids. I don't mind being forward facing, but I am hyper private about my kids.
Yep.
Right. And so my wife knows that I talk about her and most of the stuff. I get to sign off and, I know where her comfort level is on things. And so, but my kids, I don't disclose their identity, but the pictures I also don't stage. I'm not like, hey son, turn around so I can get a picture with the back of your head.
Right.
It is what I do is the stories come to mind that I want to talk about. And then I go back and go, okay, is there an actual picture that I have that I can use? Yeah. And then if not, then I don't share a picture. And if there is, but it's not identifiable, then I share it because it makes it more personal. So the point is you you share both sides of you. This is why personal profiles perform better than business profiles. You don't buy from a faceless non-human company, right? Like you're not going to go buy from Nike because they made a post on LinkedIn that's like, check out my shoes, from a business entity.
Right.
But this is why influencing works so well, because it's a person wearing the Nike shoes, right? And so it's the same thing in my case, where people go, this is usually how the leads come in. Hey, it's a private they send me a DM. Hey, I know you do SEO. I want to talk about that in a second, but that was really cool what you said about your wife and kids.
I'd say
that's awesome.
Yeah. Couldn't love it more. Admire. And again, like I said, and I wouldn't say it, that's why we had you on the show, and just, I really admire following your journey. And Damon Pasuka, we love that line, right? Facts tell, stories sell. Yeah. And so, DB, you do a great job. Again, just follow Damon on LinkedIn. Follow both Damons. They both do amazing work on LinkedIn. I know, like, we're going over time. I could keep you here all day. With your posts, I believe you have shared, we've talked about community, I think, multiple times here, just in this past, our episode here. You're part of the Russell Brunson community. Do I have that correctly? Did I see that you're part of like a mastermind with Russell?
Yeah, these are some awards right behind me I got from it. And that book, you can barely see the red tip of it. I inspired a book about Inner Circle too.
Nice. Could you so for folks out there, I really felt this was really important for our topic. If you still have a couple more minutes,
sure.
Just share, like, why is being part of a community, building a community. And what I love, you're part of a mastermind where you're coming in with other, high energy entrepreneurs, rising tides lifts all ships, iron sharpens iron. Just share a little bit about like what it's been to, for you to be part of a community, building a community, and learning from your mastermind.
Yeah, for me, that was an evolving process because I largely shunned communities. Like I would go try the local B&I kind of thing, and that has a time and a place. But for me, I just felt like it wasn't where I could get value from. Mm-hmm. And we all play at different levels and frequencies and have different goals and aspirations and different levels of aggressiveness in the pursuit of those goals. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like I just needed an environment that was more aggressive. And I didn't know where those existed. And so that's where I say I shunned them, is because I'm like, oh, if everything's just, at that level, I guess I'll just keep doing my own thing. And so that's where at the beginning of the chat where I said, I hadn't historically had mentors and now I do, is because, Russell's is the first mastermind I went in. And so I went from, and his starts at $50,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So I went from like 0 to 100 real freaking quick. And there's a whole other story about when I got in, which is what inspired the book. But when I get in, price is a quality filter on these masterminds. And so the example of a 50K mastermind is one, that they've had to accomplish something to be able to invest that.
Right.
Two is, they have a level of confidence to be able to invest that. Right. And so you have to find the right groups. And in the last 2-3 years, I've spent $250,000 on masterminds. And out of those masterminds, there's been advantages and disadvantages to all of them, but Russell's is the only one I continue to renew. And I'm not saying that like everybody needs to join Russell's. What I'm saying is you need to find the one that works for you, because these other ones that I've been in and left, other people rave about them. And for me, some of them drove me absolutely crazy and I thought they were a total waste of money. And so the biggest takeaway that I've had in that group is something that a lot of us already know, but you don't realize until you experience it, which is getting out of your own way. And so it's like, my superpower has always been SOPs. And so I've been good at documenting processes and delegating, but it opens up your mind to a whole other level of accomplishment. And Russell actually gives a great story. There's the gentleman who broke the 4-minute mile. Mm-hmm. And people used to say it was impossible. Mm-hmm. And then within months of this guy breaking the 4-minute mile, like 2 or 3 other people did.
Yeah.
So you see what this glass ceiling is. And so I go into this group and I'm like, hey, in my mind, I'm like, I'm proud of what I've accomplished. I do a couple million a year. And I get in there and there's people like, yeah, I do that in a day.
Yeah.
So it just opens up your eyes to go, oh yeah, mm-hmm. Like there is no norm. There is no scope to it. Like there's levels and levels and levels.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And so just relationships, game changing, and just kind of being in that energy has just been priceless for you.
Yeah, I mean, the relationships. There's been a lot of good people that come out with friends, and because of that, Russell's now a client, and so you get opportunities to
Right.
engage with other people. And then I think we all know in business, like when you get in one circle, like trusted circle, then you get exposed to other people, and so it's just led to more of those.
Right. Awesome. Okay. I know we've got to wind down. I could talk to you for 3 more hours. So DB, last question: best business advice that you've ever received. Best business advice that you've ever received that you'd love to pass along to other entrepreneurs.
I'm so bad at these. I think that I can't think of a direct quote. Well, two things come to mind. One was actually in Russell's mastermind, and I went to one of the facilitators at one of the events, and I was kind of complaining about we did a round table where it was like a give and an ask, right? And so everybody kind of helps each other. And the response I got back was a very poor response. I'll still stand on that, but not from the group, but from just one gentleman in particular. And so I went to one of the facilitators, and it was like the first day of the first time. I've been in the mastermind for 3 years now.
Yeah.
And so I was naive, and, I probably wouldn't have approached it the way I did, but nonetheless, I went and said, like, here's what I said, here's my question, here's the response I got back. And that's a worthless reply. And the guy, I'm gonna slaughter the quote, but he quoted what I now know is a Tony Robbins quote, and it says something along the lines of, "Your answers are as good as the quality of your life is as good as the quality of your questions." Right. And so that made me realize that I did phrase in the level of people I was surrounded by, I should have got a better response, but I did approach it poorly. And so that kind of stuck in my head. And maybe the last thing is, there's a quote from, I'm not a huge Grant Cardone advocate, but there's a quote of his that I really like. And it says, "Pay the price today so you can pay any price tomorrow." And I just remember in the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey, I remember sitting in the living room at our old house. My wife was pregnant. We had a kid due in a couple months, our first kid. And I remember thinking, I need to grind this out now so I don't have to later. Right. And I still have my long nights and whatever, but for the most part, I got total autonomy of my time now. And so that's priceless with me for my kids. And so I've never missed a basketball game, never missed a soccer game, never missed a dance recital. I'll cancel meetings. Like, I was speaking in Mexico for 3 days. I changed it to one night. I flew to Mexico, spoke, and was back home within 18 hours. Right. And so total flexibility. And I think that was from paying that price and putting in those sacrifices now, so you have that flexibility later.
God bless you, dude.
Awesome,
Man, what an inspiration you are. I lied. I have one last question for you. Last, and I promise I'll let you go.
You're like my daughter. One more.
I promise. Hey, that's a song from Les Mis, right? One more. Or how's that go? I can't remember. But anyway, there's 2 guitars over your shoulder, so I'm going to just jump. I'm going to jump right to it. So the last question that we'd love to ask on every episode is, are you a baseball fan by any chance, Damon?
No.
If, let's just say hypothetically you were, you get the idea,
baseball.
right?
Okay. All
right. You pretend you love baseball. If you're walking up to the plate to, you're playing for a major league team. I think Utah is trying to get the Oakland A's right now, right? So say you had a major league team and you're walking up to the plate. What's your walk-up song? If you're going to walk up to the plate.
I got a walk-up song.
What's your walk-up song?
I got a story. Okay. So there's a YouTube video. I got a good friend, Michael Unbroken. He's a big speaker and talks about breaking childhood traumas and helps men break through. And so he texts me one day the dumbest song. And if you go to YouTube, it's "I'm the Best." It's one word, IMDABESSS, right? And it's like a 15-year-old video, and it's this dude coming, and the whole song is just, "I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best." And then, like, he goes into these like dorky, like 1990s thing, like, "What's better than a million?
Right.
A Gillian." And he's like, just like making words up. And so Michael's like, "Dude, when I go on stage one day," like, he speaks on way more and bigger stages than I do.
That's going to be his walk-up.
He's like, "That's my walk-up song." And I'm like, too late, bro. I speak next week. So I used it the next week in Florida to walk up on stage. And so now I use this I'm the best doc. And I'm actually going on an interview with David Meltzer and Michael in 2 weeks.
Oh,
and
are you really?
I bought a shirt. The dude makes shirts now that has the frame. It's like him on a car with a dorky cartoon son.
Right.
And I found out that he sells them. And so I mailed Michael one, and he's like, this is the best, dumbest thing I've ever got. And I actually just set a reminder this morning that says, don't forget to put on your I'm the best shirt when I talk with Michael and David Meltzer.
That is awesome. Well, hey, that's impressive. You're speaking with David Meltzer. So that is phenomenal. Anna drops. So Anna corrects me. So Anna says one day more. My wife and I just went to see Les Mis about a month ago. Anna, thank you for correcting me on that one.
Thanks,
so hey, you know what? Let's wind down. So first off, everybody out there that's hanging out with us with this amazing, incredible, mind-blowing conversation. How about a huge round of applause for Damon Burton, just absolutely crushing it today. So, Damon, thank you, man. Damon Pastolka, your takeaways, thoughts as we close out?
Oh, just so much good in here. Just if you didn't listen to this from the beginning, go back and listen. There's just so many golden nuggets in here. Just thanks for being here today. Thanks for sharing your story and just being you, man.
This is awesome. So I think we might have we're over an hour. So Damon Burton, thank you for sticking with us as long as you did. We could have kept you for 2 more hours, but hey, we've got another comment here from Dale coming in. He says,
yeah. Dale is saying, hey, thanks everyone.
So
thanks for being here, Dale. Appreciate you.
So we'll close out, guys. Thank you. And what we love to say, just go out and be someone's inspiration, just like our friend Damon here. God bless you guys. Have a great killer weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all of our wonderful, amazing mothers out there. Just shower your mothers, your mothers in your life. Shower them with love. And we will see you here on Monday. So Damon Burton, hang out with us for 1 second, and we'll have a great weekend.
Yeah, everybody, thanks for being here today. If you didn't listen, like I said, get back to the beginning of this, rewind and listen to Damon Burton. Follow him on LinkedIn. Check him out on Facebook. Do that. Go to SEO National and see what they're doing there. Check out his SEO book as well. It's got tons of great information. We are signing out today on Manufacturing E-commerce Success, and we will be back again next week. Have a great weekend. And as Kurt said, make sure those mothers in your lives know you appreciate them.
That's right.
Have a great one.